Thanks so much. It's wonderful to be here this morning, and congratulations to all of you for making it at 9-ish on a Sunday morning and the last day of a very intense conference and experience. So, welcome to the Infinite Game. You're going to be invited this morning to experience a new metaphor that is essentially about how to live well together. And this metaphor is the metaphor of a game, and I'm asking you to play today and to take the game seriously. As with any game, it doesn't actually matter, but if we all take it seriously, if we pretend it matters, it will be a better game. So you can choose to play, or you can choose not to play, but remember that what you do will affect others. So if you choose not to play, just sort of sit there and chill out. If you choose to play, have fun and take a few risks with me this morning. So the Infinite Game was a metaphor put forward originally by the philosopher James Carse. And James Carse suggested that in life there are at least two kinds of games. And these games are going on simultaneously around us, in our communities, in our organisations, and in our schools. The key purpose of the Infinite Game is to keep the game in play and to invite others in. If you are genuinely inviting others into the game, you cannot know what will come out of that game. So by definition, the Infinite Game looks to an unknown future. Finite games, on the other hand, are about winning. The purpose is to win. The purpose is to control the outcome of that game so that you can determine what will happen and you will be the victor. So what I'm going to start with this morning, with the help of my generous assistant, Ruth, who is at the moment giving out pieces of paper to make paper planes. If you've missed out on one of these, you will have an opportunity a little bit later to do so, because we want everybody to be able to play. As we're going to read to you some of the features of finite and infinite games, just to give you a little bit of a sense of this metaphor. And I'm hoping, can I have the next slide, please? That's a boring slide, that's just who I am. Okay, now I'm not sure how well you can read that. I adjusted the font when I realised what kind of setting we were in. Can you kind of read that okay enough? Great. So what we're going to do is Ruth and I are going to read these out to you, and it's a little bit like a poem. This is a series of statements that I've taken partly from James Carse's book about finite and infinite games, partly from my own experience in exploring this over the last 3 years, and partly just ideas that have come to me. So what I want you to do is, in this first instance, just listen to these statements and see if you're starting to get the hang of how these two kinds of games work in life. And then I'm going to explore this with the idea of cricket and how cricket is played. So Ruth is going to read the infinite statements, and I'm going to read the finite statements. And if you can just, as I say, let these resonate throughout the room.
The purpose of the infinite game is to continue the play.
The purpose of a finite game is to win or to survive.
The infinite game invites others in.
Finite games include only select people.
Infinite players relate to the humanity in each other.
In finite games, others are allies, pawns, or competitors.
The infinite game may provide a deep sense of connection with others.
In finite games, victory may be joyful, but must be guarded.
In the infinite game, any single player is not needed and cannot finish the game.
In finite games, each player must be alert. To relax is dangerous.
The infinite game values open-ended expression.
Finite games value expression only within the mediums and rules set by the game. Next slide, please.
The infinite game is an open network in which everything is interconnected.
Finite games are discrete clusters that may expand or replicate.
The infinite game tends towards diversity.
Finite games tend towards sameness.
Infinite players are in awe of life in all its forms.
Finite players attempt to control the life forms relevant to the game.
The infinite game reaches towards horizons that shift as the players shift.
Finite games are within boundaries that contain the vision of players.
Infinite players attempt to understand themselves.
Finite players attempt to train themselves.
The infinite game seeks and responds to information about the world.
Winners of finite games claim knowledge of the world, which may be treated as the truth.
The infinite game looks to the future and does not assume the past will reoccur.
In finite games, players try to replicate the winning strategies of the past.
The rules of the infinite game must change over time, or the game will cease.
To change or break the rules of a finite game is a violation.
The infinite game includes finite games, but finite games may exist outside the infinite game.
Thank you so much, Ruth, for reading those out. Great, awesome. So if I can have the next slide, please. That just illustrates this idea, and it's very hard to represent visually the infinite game, which is by necessity boundless and open and endless. And here I've got it in a little kind of circle. But this is the idea that you can have these finite games either in service of the infinite space or outside the infinite space. And that's something we're going to be exploring more. So I'm hoping you're getting the hang of this and starting to be able to see these kinds of games in your lives. But next slide, please. I'm going to really get into the details of this with a metaphor. Now, if you're a New Zealander, Australian, South Africa, English, you know the game of cricket well. Does anyone here not know the basic idea of cricket? Okay, so baseball, you know baseball, the game baseball? It's a bit like that. You have a bat and a ball and you run. That's kind of all you need to know in order to be able to understand the metaphor I'm getting at here. If you are a New Zealander or Australian, South African, you have recently experienced the Cricket World Cup, and so it will be particularly salient to you as a concept. So what I want to talk about is the idea of a game of beach cricket as the infinite game, and a game of test cricket, let's say between New Zealand and Australia, to choose a couple of random countries, as an example of a finite game. So let's think about the game of beach cricket. Now, lots of you not from New Zealand might not have played beach cricket, but what happens is you're at the beach, you're all camping, you're all on holiday, or you're out for the day, somebody has a cricket bat, somebody has a tennis ball, and you think, let's play a game of cricket, right? So what are you desperate for? Players. You want everybody to participate in your game. You don't care if they've never heard of cricket. Those people that put up your hands, you're most welcome to play. So you set up, wickets with maybe a bit of driftwood and a few lines in the sand, and you set up teams, and you say, you be in this team and you be in that team, because just like in baseball, there's two teams. And then after a while, 3 or 4 people from this team have to go off and have their barbecue. So what do? You rearrange the teams, don't you? You say, oh, come on, you people just play over here for a while. And as you play beach cricket, you sort of semi-keep to the rules, which you explain to everybody in the beginning, but you all know that the rules aren't really the point, because we're not really playing cricket here, we're having fun together here. Now let's imagine a teenage girl, and she's kind of in the game, she's maybe a little bit reluctant, because what she's really doing is she's watching the surfers out there on the waves. And a great catch comes right in front of her. Boom! She misses it, because she's watching that guy catch that wave. And what does everybody do? Well, they groan loudly and dramatically. They say, how could you do that? But they don't really care, because her missing that catch is all just part of the game. Now let's imagine a couple of 16-year-olds who are actually cricket players themselves, who know what the game is about, and they're up against each other. And one of them's batting and one of them's bowling, and they're trying to run really hard against each other. And they're playing this little competitive game within our broader game. And we enjoy that too. We enjoy the way that they're sparking off each other and trying really hard to get each other out and run hard and play hard. But if they went on and on and on forever, and the rest of us had to drop out and just watch them, well, that'd get pretty boring. So that little finite game, that little competition within the game of beach cricket is lots of fun, as long as we don't take it too seriously and know it's not the point. Now, who is the master player? I've really struggled to find a non-gendered term for this, so I'm using the word master. Who is the master player of beach cricket? Think about that. Is it the best cricketer? No. The master player of beach cricket is the person who's best at welcoming others in. It's the person that's got the knack of saying, hey, you do this, we'll just change things a bit to accommodate you. It's the person who, when a 4-year-old boy comes up, can hardly pick up the bat, can't hit the ball, says just run anyway. In fact, we all say just run anyway, because one of the things we understand about the infinite game is if we want to invite others in, we need to change the rules to accommodate them. We need to be alert. What is it this person needs? I'm going to change the rules to make sure they can do this. So tomorrow, do we play beach cricket? Maybe, maybe not. The point isn't to play cricket. Now let's think about Test cricket, New Zealand versus Australia, as an example of a finite game. Let's start with selection. Can you please put up your hand if you've been selected to play for New Zealand or Australia in cricket? Really? Okay, let's make it a little bit more open and generous. It's a Sunday morning. Who's been selected to play any sport for their country at an international level? Oh, awesome. Yeah. What sport? Well done. So we've got one person here out of everyone in this group that's allowed to play one sport for their country. The rest of you, sorry. Okay, in fact, as we well know, a lot of you, by your gender, couldn't be selected to play New Zealand, Australia, Test cricket. Okay, so first point, selection. Only qualified players are allowed into the game. And this is true of any finite game. Think about the house buying game. Think about the NCEA Level 3 game. Think about the job game. You have to be qualified to play. Okay, then let's think about one cricketer breaking his leg halfway through the game. He's a New Zealander. Would the Australians say, oh, you can have one of ours, just to make up the numbers? I don't think so. Changing the rules part way through the game to accommodate people that are there, ridiculous. Absurd, because in Test cricket, as in all finite games, the rules must remain the same for the duration of the game, or else how would we know who won? How would we know who to give the trophy to? I mean, come on. Let's also think about how you become. Who's the master Test cricket player? Well, it's a person that's best at cricket. It's a person that can bat the best, bowl the best, catch the best, all of those kinds of things. And how do you become a master Test cricket player? This is how you do it. You get a coach. You learn how people won cricket in the past, and you make yourself into a cricket clone. So master cricket players train themselves to become like these cricket machines that can just react to that ball in the way that is appropriate. Now, missing a great catch because you're texting your girlfriend in the stands, again, ludicrous. I mean, to even say that is ludicrous because we know that's impossible. Because when you're playing a finite game, it's winners and losers, people. You have to look out for yourself or else you're gone, baby, and that's better for the rest of us because we have more chance of winning. Now, if we also think about, if we think about the Test cricket scenario, here we're all playing, and finally, did anyone watch New Zealand versus South Africa? Semi-final. Finally, that game I know this is a kind of in-joke or whatever. That game, for people who aren't part of the cricket scene or New Zealand, Australia, was won by the tiniest of margins, the tiniest of margins. So New Zealand walked out victorious, having won that game, but everybody knows that those teams were playing almost identically on that day. But in a finite game, the difference between winning and losing is absolute. If you're the winner, you go forward to the final. If you're the loser, you're out. It doesn't matter how small the margin is, the margin, in a sense, becomes infinite. And you mustn't gloat. You mustn't go, oh, we're awesome. That's not sportsmanlike. You just quietly gain the authority of the winner. You quietly gain the capacity to dominate that space. You quietly claim that knowledge and take over.
Not if you're Australian.
Well, I wasn't going to mention the New Zealand versus Australian game, you know. We infinite players rewrite history continuously to make sure that we're telling the right kind of story. Okay, so hopefully you're getting the hang of how these kinds of games work. And the infinite game, as I said before, it's a very broad, open field. And we do need to organise ourselves as human beings. So we do need finite games that are within this infinite game. We do need ways of structuring ourselves and making life work. But the key is this still in service of the infinite game? So this is where you get to do a little bit of playing. And the first thing you need to do, if I can have the next slide, please, is we're going to think about the infinite game just from a slightly different angle for this part of the session. And what we're going to think about the infinite game as is comprised of infinite values. Now, what is it that we're really trying to keep alive in this beautiful world of ours and with each other? What is the grand human project that we're talking about here? Well, we can think of this in terms of the things that we deeply and truly value. So you need to concentrate hard at this minute if you want to play, because you're all going to have to say a word. What do you feel in your heart is sacred, precious, special? What makes this world truly alive? What is of value for its own sake? Not for something practical that it does, but just because it deserves to be here. If you can just click the mouse so I get the next bit. It can be in any dimension. So it can be an emotion, a relationship, part of the natural world. It can be like a quality, if you like, or an object. Now, I'm going to get you, because there's a lot of us, just to contribute one word into the space or a really short little phrase. And I don't want to give you an example of an infinite value. I want you to take the risk and trust that what you say will be right. Okay? And when we've done this, I'm going to share with you some of the things over 1,000 other people have said in research that I'm doing. This isn't part of the research element. Do you think you're confident to say one infinite value each? Okay. Now, the other thing I want you to do is that some of you are going to hear your infinite value said, and you're going to think, oh my God, that was my one. Well, repeat. Keep your one in mind and just repeat. Like if you hear what you were going to say, repeat it. If you've got 10 in your mind, trust that somebody will say it. Okay? One, and I want to move really quickly in what I think of as a ripple poem. So if we can start here, and we're just going to ripple around the room. So if you're at the end of a row, it's just going to flick over to the next row. And it's really beautiful if we can keep this moving as quickly as possible. Nice loud voices. If you don't want to play, just quickly tap the person on the shoulder next to you, look at them, some indication to keep it moving. As loud and resonant a voice as possible. Are we all ready to do this? We all ready? Just also be warned that this is being filmed. So if you don't want your voice to appear, again, pass, or you can see our wonderful filmmakers at the end and say, cut out that awful word I used. Anyway, let's do it. Big, loud voices.
Loving relationships. Love.
Curiosity.
Fear.
Community.
Talent. Peace. Biodiversity.
Clean water.
Meaning.
Collaboration.
Being authentic.
Respect.
Sex.
Joy.
I'll come back.
Acceptance.
Happiness.
Faith.
Being whole.
Celebration. Joy.
The forest.
Natural sounds. Playful. Oxygen. Relationship. Light. Generosity. Engagement.
Death.
Fulfillment.
Family.
Waves. Patience.
Divinity.
Love. Music. Love. Trees. Water. Family.
Connectivity.
Love. Freedom.
Curiosity.
Laughter.
Gratitude. Equality. Amor.
Now, I know we missed a few people here.
Ocean. Spirit of life. Vocation.
Thank you. And did we miss anyone else? Yeah, okay, over here.
Freedom. Freedom.
Anyone else that was missed just because it was a bit of a slightly ruggedy setup? Awesome! So this, people, is what we're trying to keep in play. That is it. That is it. All of those amazing words: love, curiosity, water, spontaneity, all of the amazing things you said. I've made a word cloud just before you flick onto that. So you know how word clouds work. The bigger the word, the more people that said it. Now, this word cloud I'm going to show you is the results of over 900 people that have done this exercise, and the actual words they said have been slightly organised into clusters and themes, just because people say really specific things sometimes, like my bees, my beautiful daughter, all those wonderful things that are true to us. So I'm going to show you the word cloud, the results now, if we can have that. That's it. So what we have in the middle is love, radiating out. We also have variations on everything that's said today: humour, trees, peace, friendship, happiness, creativity, dance, excitement, curiosity, art, mountains, God, beauty, growth, compassion, relationships, generosity, sunshine, integrity, biodiversity, children, sunrise, etc. If you want to explore this more in the follow-up session, I'll give you a sheet to work with. But everything I do, by the way, is always available to anyone who wants to take these materials and play with them themselves. I don't believe in intellectual property, so this is an infinite game. Do with it what you will. I have a website that I'll show you at the end where you can get access to these things. Okay, next slide, please. So these are the kind of underlying categories: connection, love, positive relationships, family, community, giving to others in various ways, nature, creative expression and learning, and a spirituality, transcendence dimension. Next slide, please. So let's do the opposite now. Now, if you can vaguely remember who went before you, that would be really good, because that will make our poem a little bit work a little bit more smoothly, although you were fabulous. And so we're going to do a finite value now. And same drill as for infinite, you're going to think of one word or a short phrase and share it into the space. So that which is a finite value is a value because of what it signifies or enables. Okay? It's a value because a group of people deem it so. Another group of people may not deem this thing of value. Next part, please. It can be in any dimension, an emotion, relationship, part of the natural world, a quality or an object. Same sort of, that's the same as last time. Think you can do one? Everyone okay? We'll go around the same order because it just makes it much simpler with a big group of people.
Writing.
Status. Success.
Morals.
Determination.
Social status. Roads. Money. Competition.
Success.
Money.
Competition.
Qualifications. Accreditation. Cooperation. Disconnection. Physicality. Competition.
Nice big loud voices.
Bad.
Scholarship.
You made it.
Weeds.
Speak. If it's in doubt, speak. And we'll come back to people at the end.
Water.
Life. Coffee. Power. Fear. Ego. Winner. Fame. Coffee. Money. Oil.
Wool. Okay, over here, I think, in the back.
Heart.
Hierarchy.
Winning.
Anyone at the back there want to speak?
Sorry, Jane.
American football.
Okay, and the people we missed here? Great. Anyone missed out that wants to say a word?
Sadness.
What was your word?
Sadness.
Excellent. Great. So this, people, is what we may be using to try and keep in play that which we consider of infinite value. If we can have the next 2 slides, please, because that's just, yeah. So here is the results. In the middle, we have money. And I've come to think that if love is an explosion that represents the infinite and all these other things are manifestations of it, it's almost like money is this black hole into which finite games in our society tend to collapse. It's extraordinary the way money gets into all of these games, certainly in Cricket World Cup, for example, certainly in education. I recently read something about the education industry. I'm thinking, oh my goodness. Okay, I don't need to say to you what, the many ways. Oh, if we can just go back to that slide, sorry. So we've got money, power, wealth, religion, qualifications, competition, control, position, chocolate, incorrectly placed there, of course, greed, success, possessions. In fact, chocolate also almost made it onto the other slide, but you had to have a count of 4 for it to get to the slide. Marriage, shoes. I think it's interesting. Shoes are so symbolic of sort of frivolous consumption. Beauty, manipulation. Quite often you see words, interestingly, sometimes presented differently here to on the other one. Beauty makes it onto the infinite space as well, but often people here said good looks. So those subtle differences, the difference between beauty and good looks, you get it, don't you? Or the difference between God as a concept and religion. You know, those kinds of subtle but important differences, again, in what deeply and truly matters and then what we're using potentially to try and bring that out. Or sometimes the games that we're playing that we take so seriously as if they matter, and what they do is they allow the accumulation of more and more power. More and more power. So one person gains more power in the classroom in terms of owning property, in terms of having status, celebrity, fame, all of that kind of stuff. Okay, next slide, please. So that's the just a summary of those. Money, material objects, status and social positions, social regulations and bureaucracies big in here. You know, bureaucratic requirements, success and domination. Next slide, please. Okay, so hopefully at this point you've got a paper dart. If you have not got a paper dart, I've got a bit more paper here. Ruth, my wonderful assistant, has run out of paper. So I'm hoping we've got enough paper darts to play with. We can still play even if everyone hasn't got a dart. But I don't want you to miss out on the opportunity to make one if you want to do that. So can you just tear these in half and give out a few? Thank you. Awesome. So I'm just going to give a minute's pause while people organise their darts. And test drive their darts as necessary. Okay, I think we're ready to explain the rules. Now, this is a game. It's got to have rules, of course. So, we're going to play 3 different dart games, okay? And again, you need to be super listening. And of course, as always, your choice to play or not. Games are always voluntary. And the first dart game, if we can have the next slide, please. This is the rules of the first game, okay? We're going to be kind of mimicking the infinite game here. And so the object of this game is to keep the darts in play, which you've made, and to include others in the game. Now, just a little health and safety warning, having done this a few times. I strongly recommend that you just make eye contact with someone and throw the dart to them rather than just randomly throwing them around, because they do kind of poke in people's eyes and stuff. And also because we are like playing with each other. Now, because some of you are primary school teachers and I need a way of controlling a big group like this, I'm going to clap a bit of a rhythm at the end, and I'm just going to practice it now with you. When I do that clapping, can you start to join in, and that's when the game will be over. So it'll just, if we can just have a quick practice now, I'll do it once. Okay, should we all do it together? Okay, so it's real easy, but when you hear me start to clapping, that'll be when the game is finished, okay? So, do you think you get the rules? Okay, play. Nice dart. Would you like? Okay. Awesome. Okay, now Ruth, my wonderful assistant Ruth and I are just going to make sure that the darts aren't lying on the floor. Now, at this point, Ruth and I may take some darts from people, give some people darts. What you end up with in your hands is the next game. So please just allow us to be game masters for a moment. And, you know, some of you might get a lot of darts, some of you might get none. Sorry, but that's how this game goes. Okay, Ruth and I will just... Some people got 3 darts, some none, some one. It just doesn't matter, it's just one. Okay, I think are we done, Ruth? We okay with this? All the darts have to be accounted for and held by somebody. So if you put your dart down, baby, you lose. Okay, you're right. Okay, excellent, thank you. Right, now, listening carefully, can we please have the rules of Dart Game 2? The object of this game is to win. The winner is the person with the most darts. You may not manufacture new darts. I learned to put that rule up pretty quickly. And of course, law and order must be maintained in all finite games. You may not grab a dart from another person. Again, now this game may have pauses in it, but we'll pause or end the game with the same clapping procedure. Now, when people do clap, you know, those darts are still theirs, so like, you know, you better tuck it in somewhere or whatever if you start to clap, just, you know, because you don't want people to grab your dart, but do respect at that moment that those are their darts. Okay, let the game begin. Okay, who thinks they might be a winner? Come up on the stage. Anyone who thinks they might be a winner, can you please come up on the stage? I have my little bag of trophies here. Okay, only 2 contestants a winner. Right, can you count your darts, please?
I've got 6.
You got 6? How many do you have? Oh, we've got another contestant. 9, and? Oh, 6? Okay, well, naturally, we have a It has to be given back at the end, but that doesn't matter because the point is you get a trophy. And what do we do with winners? There you go. Now, hold on to your darts. Hold on to your darts. Hold on. No. Hold on to your darts. Hold on to your trophy. There is one more game to come. Please sit down. You may wish to look at the rules of this next game before you do anything so reckless as to throw your darts. Dart game 3. Object of this game is to be on the winning team. The winning team must be 3 people, no more, no less. The winning team is a team with the most darts, may not manufacture new darts, and none of the stealing business. But of course, if those in control don't notice the stealing, or don't care about the stealing, or are actually doing the stealing themselves, then we all know stealing happens. But hey, not trying to endorse it. You may not grab a dart from another person. Play.
I'm just letting everyone know that this
Isn't it hard for them to sit down when they're deep in negotiation? Do we have a claim, a possible claim as a winning team? Okay, if you think you're a winning team, come up on stage. Do we only have one team in contention here? Can't have 4 people. Oh, another team. Good. Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay, you people. None of this. Right, forward. It can be hard to regain control in these situations, but as long as you're assertive, it kind of oh my goodness, we have how many teams? Let's be clear. This is team 1. This is team 2. Oh, they have got some darts. And this is team 3. Okay, team 1. How many darts have you got? Others may be counting their darts at the same time, yes. We really need an accountant to, sign and endorse that they have as many darts as they claim, but we're going to do a little bit of trust. I was a little bit suspicious of the way they were sort of agreeing as to what to say there. But anyway, team 1.
25.
25. Well done, but we won't clap you yet.
22.
Sorry.
We've got 21, but we can loan you 40.
Very tempting, but the rules are the rules. Team 1, well done. I'm afraid, yes. Okay, and you all get trophies. Signify your winning status. Please give these back at the end because there we go. And great, so can you please take your darts? Sorry, you losers, but never mind. Okay. So, what we're going to do now, thank you.
Is there another game?
No, end of the games. End of the games.
Why is the best?
You have raised a very good point because what we're going to do now, I think I have until 15:15 because that's when I started. So, what we're going to do now with the people near you, and let's do this like an infinite game, inclusive, but if you don't want to play, you don't have to. But if you do want to play, just give that tiny little glance to the people near you and they'll say, play with me. In 2s or 3s, I think 3s is kind of ideal, but 2s is okay. I think 4s is a bit too many for a big noisy venue like this. I'd like you, please, next slide. Next slide, if we can have it. It's just in 2s or 3s what happened in those dart games. Okay, just to think about what was going on. It was really great for me up here because I could see a few things that I hadn't noticed before, even though I've played this about 40 times now. So I'm going to give you, again, I'm just going to clap when the time is up, 3 or 4 minutes in the groups just to start chatting about what happened in those games, and then we'll invite people to speak. Go. So I need to finish, and if we can just flick on to the next couple of slides. What if this was real? Well, I do want to say to you, the infinite game is real, people. We're playing it all the time. It's everywhere you see. And when you're overwhelmed by the finite games that you're surrounded by, just remember that infinite players are out there, and it's one huge thread. If I can have the next slide. I've just got some ideas. I'm going to rattle through these. If we can have the next slide. Don't be afraid to talk in terms of deep values. Trust that almost everyone holds these values in their heart. I've played this game with over 1,000 people. Never has anyone put money into the infinite space, and yet we talk about money all the time in our public institutions. Don't be afraid to talk about love. Learn methods of deep dialogue that connect people. Introduce these if you can into your organisation. Hope that people behave as you do not expect. Play their finite games when you must, but hold them lightly. Next slide, please. Insofar as you are able, set up finite games that are in service of infinite values and reassess them regularly. Reflect and act in a constant cycle. It's not mistakes that are the problem or even bad behaviour. It's allowing these to become part of normal practice. Consider if the person needs to change or the game they're in needs to change. In my view, it's pretty much always the latter. And here we go, final word from The Matrix. Awesome film in terms of the metaphor of us being caught in our minds in a virtual computer, our bodies sucked out, the nutrients used by some ghastly sort of alien machine thing. Morpheus comes to Neo, who is in the machine, mind in the world. Morpheus is a free person, says to Neo, do you want to be ripped out of this machine and enter the messy, confusing, difficult, but awesomely wonderful process of actually being alive? If you want to, you take anyone remember which one? The red pill. If you want to go back into the computer, and this never has happened, you take the blue pill. So I ask you today, I actually have pills, but there were too many people to bring them along. If you want to live in the awareness of these games, or whatever metaphor suits you, to challenge the status quo, challenge where power is stuck, to bring people into the game, to honour our natural world, think of yourself as taking the red pill and walk out here with that awareness. If you want to leave here and say, what did I do that Sunday morning? take the metaphorical blue pill and the day will be done. Okay, that's just that. This is what we're going to do at 10:30 in the granary, is we're going to follow up looking at these specifically in relation to your institutions using a method of deep dialogue, storytelling method that I've developed over the years that allows you to really get into the nitty-gritty of this with other people. Thank you so much for your attention and coming this morning. Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Thank you. Thanks. You've still got a start. Thank you. Thank you.